Hi, I'm Dr. Thaïs Aliabadi. For over 25 years, as an OBGYN, I've helped countless women navigate the challenges of PCOS. I created OV to bring you a scientifically backed solution that supports the symptoms of PCOS with powerful ingredients. OV supports hormone balance, body composition, metabolic support, and beauty from within, giving you a comprehensive approach to supporting your health. It's more than just a supplement. It's a product born from decades of experience and a deep commitment to women's health. Visit OV.com to learn more and start your journey to better health today. That's OVII.com.
Hello, listeners. Mary Alice here. June is National Nutrition Month, and I have to say, our SheMD episodes centered on nutrition are consistently the most popular. If you're a longtime listener, you know that our goal is to provide science-backed medical and wellness information from doctors and practitioners at the top of their field. I'm not just the co-host of SheMD. I'm also a mom, a wife, and somebody who really wants to know these things. This episode is a highlight reel from some of my and Dr. A's favorite interviews, not just about nutrition, but also how our relationship with food affects our well-being. Make sure to check out our Instagram account at SheMD Podcast to see more of our favorite nutrition tips. And please share your favorite nutrition tips, hacks, and lessons in the comments. We're on this path of wellness together, and we love hearing from you. As always, thanks for listening to SheMD. Up first, we have a clip from Dr. Will Cole's interview. He has an amazing ability to make complex functional medicine approachable and empowering.
And then food is first, like really optimizing nutrition, focusing on the foods that love their body back and decreasing the foods that don't love their body back. The things you want to bring in are going to be optimizing protein, not fearing healthy fats, bringing in things like wild caught fish and grass-fed beef and grass-fed butter and all the extra virgin olive oil into your life, not fearing fruits. I think sometimes people, especially if you're leaning into like the lower carb and the ketogenic, and that's, if your diet or way of eating is causing you to fear a banana, get a new way of eating.
Yeah, we often collaborate with the team from the Zoe podcast, and they've been so supportive of SheMD in our first year. Dr. Sarah Berry stopped by our studio with a really important reminder.
I mean, sadly for me, I really enjoy a pepperoni pizza more than I do a green salad. So that think of what you can add rather than what you take away.
Khloe and I both swoon over a certain food most nutritionists would steer us away from. I love what she says about it in this clip.
Pizza is my weakness. But now that I'm in this different state of my mind, I'm never going to eat a full pizza. But it's retraining your brain. If your brain isn't trained with your body, then you're not doing anything, it doesn't matter.
I think we sometimes lose the ability to even feel full. I mean, I know I did. I went to a nutritionist for years and years. And in my case, it was emotional overeating. Mm-hmm. But I think it is a freeing place to be in your life when food isn't this thing that you think about all the time. Mm-hmm. Or I don't know. That was my experience with it.
Yeah, I used to be a major emotional eater. Yeah. I gave myself a lot of patience and I just took my time. I wasn't like, tomorrow's day 1, 6 days a week and cutting out all sugar. You can't, it's so extreme.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
No. Jen Smiley's episode was a masterclass in reading nutrition labels. Now, if I can't pronounce it, I won't eat it. Someone's listening to this podcast. Yep. They're going to go to the grocery store. Oh, yeah. What do they do?
Well, everyone has different approaches. Right. But I think the best and easiest approach is for someone to go into their kitchen and take out what they are consistently eating. That's a great place to start. We as Americans have this new standard that food should last in our pantry 3 weeks and food should never mold, but it's the preservatives. So it's the fillers, it's the gums, it's the ingredients you can't pronounce. So if you're looking at a label and you just see, at least 2 ingredients you can't pronounce, know that your body doesn't recognize it either.
We've got to find an affordable way to eat less packaged and processed foods. A recent survey showed that 25% more American households engage in some form of urban gardening. But Katie Lee Beagle's grandfather instilled this in her at a young age.
My grandpa had an amazing garden that we would cook out of. And it was just all about having like, even though it maybe wasn't necessarily like health food, it actually was, because there was nothing that was ever coming out of a can.
We launched Wendy Lopez and Jessica Jones' episode this month, and I learned so much from them.
We want to take on more of a therapeutic approach where we also address people's history with disordered eating, or just like celebrating people's culture and their food through intuitive eating versus just being prescriptive, which is what we see a lot in the nutrition space. It's like, okay, here's a list of the foods that you should be eating, or here's a 1,200 calorie diet that you can follow. Like, we really want to get deeper, because for a lot of people, food is so much more than just like what you're eating. And so we take on a non-restrictive approach, emphasizing health and well-being over weight loss.
Elisa Goodman joined us to share advice on the role nutrition plays in preventing and healing disease.
What should someone eat when they get the diagnosis of cancer, A? And is it the same diet as someone who hasn't had any diagnosis yet?
Well, I would say it's very similar, because we really do want to eat, real whole foods. Like, we don't want processed foods, we don't want inflammatory foods, but really it's about we're eating real food. It's about trying to get clean food and organic food. There are certain foods that are really, really crucial. So when you talk specifically about cancer, I would say when someone is diagnosed, you really should dive into those foods, which is pretty easy to do. But anyone who doesn't have cancer should be eating those foods as well, and also staying really hydrated. We're so dehydrated. We have a dehydrated society. And so we don't have enough minerals in our soil and in our food. And when we eat the food, we don't absorb the minerals that we have, and their lack of minerals. So we're not absorbing the water into our cells. So really, we're just like, organs aren't being able to detox properly. We're not going to the bathroom enough. We're stressed because when we're dehydrated, our adrenaline and cortisol pump out of our adrenals more when we're dehydrated. And also tuning in food-wise to what feels good for you and what doesn't, because I could probably eat eggplant and maybe you can't. It's a nightshade, and sometimes people have problems with nightshades. You might not feel good afterwards. I know that people have brain fog afterwards or have sugar cravings. That means that food doesn't agree with them. So we all need to tune in more. Oh, I just ate that and I felt great. Or, oh, I just ate that and I felt like crap, and then we keep eating it, even though we feel like crap. So we just gotta tune into our instincts of what feels good for us and gives us energy. But it really is about going back to the basics. It's not rocket science here.
Dr. Berry gave us a tip to shop for the rainbow, and I use that all the time.
So we often say eat the rainbow. Now, you can't do that within one meal, but if over the week you can try and eat the rainbow, so you're getting that diversity of foods as well. And as a rule of thumb, what we often say is try and get about 30 different types of plant-based foods, so that diversity of plant-based foods.
Victoria Garrick Brown's episode continues to be in our top 5 most popular since it was released. She spoke with such honesty about her relationship with food and her struggles with her body.
I remember that there was a sentence that said, "It doesn't matter how many calories are in an egg white. Do you want an egg white?" And I was like, I don't know. I've literally never asked myself. I just eat what the magazine or the YouTuber says. So that was my first introduction to a concept and a practice called intuitive eating, which is a mindfulness framework and approach to food, which is ultimately what healed my relationship with food.
I remember being the same kind of story, being in graduate school. And all I could think about all day long was what I was going to eat, how I was going to exercise, and how I was going to get rid of those calories that I had eaten. And it took me a long time to create a relationship with food that was about food and nutrients. And I worked with a nutritionist I've had her on the podcast, Elise Resch, who literally changed my life. Intuitive eating truly changed my life. I'm not exaggerating. I worked with Elise Resch, who developed the idea around intuitive eating in the 90s. She was at the top of my list for SheMD guests, and I refer to her all the time. Let's listen to a clip from her episode.
Yeah, and in your pursuit of good food, bad food, trying to eat the foods that you thought were, deemed healthy or okay, and feeling bad about the foods that you thought you shouldn't eat, what that did is it drove you to more of the food that you didn't think you should have, because we are so driven by our unmet needs. That's what Abraham Maslow, one of the psychologists, said. Meaning, if we don't have something, that's what we want. So when you tell yourself you shouldn't have certain foods, that's all you can think about. And intuitive eating is all about autonomy. It's based on the belief that we're all born with all the knowledge we need to have in order to eat.
Whitney Port Rosamond's SheMD episode was focused on her fertility journey, but she also shared her definition of intuitive eating, which I thought was so smart and helpful.
For me, intuitive eating is all about tuning in to what you want and having that. It's not about diets. It's about allowing yourself to enjoy food and have fun with it and take the pressure off of it and not be like quantifying things. It's just about being more flexible and not just putting so many restrictions on yourself.
Here's some good advice from holistic nutritionist Sarah Raggi from one of our early days of the podcast. Sarah Raggi reminds us that we have different nutritional needs in different stages of our life, especially once we enter menopause. This is one of my favorite episodes. Are there any things that you do differently for somebody going through menopause or in perimenopause?
With women that are in menopause, I am really paying attention to cortisol, and I'm really paying attention to fat and carbohydrates. Unfortunately, when you go through menopause, your body is gearing towards insulin resistance, which is why every single woman says to me, Sarah, I woke up and I have belly fat. It's just here and here and here. And I don't know how it happened. It happened overnight. So we have to be very mindful of how much fat you're consuming. And then we have to watch your carbohydrates. Complex, fiber-rich, slow-burning carbs are the answer. Sweet potatoes, quinoa, butternut squash, as opposed to white rice or pasta or bread.
Here's Jessica Jones.
I love to lean on frozen fruits and vegetables because they are frozen at the peak of freshness and oftentimes have the same amount of nutrition as their fresh counterparts, sometimes more, and they don't go bad as quickly, right? So I'm a big fan of, maybe we just buy a bag of frozen broccoli this week, some frozen berries, like raspberries, for example, have 7 grams of fiber per cup, which is incredible. 1/3 of your fiber needs for a lot of people.
I've learned, I didn't know about that, those frozen berries, fruits, and vegetables, that they are frozen at the height of their amazingness. Yep. That's such a good tip. Here's my dear friend Caitlin Dial, a health and wellness coach and the founder of Clean Life Collective. We'll be releasing her full interview with me and Dr. A in the coming months, so make sure to look out for it.
Your food is medicine.
Yeah.
And as an integrative health coach, we really believe that, especially as it relates to PCOS and other female health issues, that your genetics can load the gun, but it's your environment and your lifestyle, your food choices, your behaviors that pull the trigger. There's so many studies linking ultra-processed packaged foods to inflammation in the body. And unfortunately, those foods make up close to 60% of Americans' diet. There's a reason that the American diet the acronym is SAD. It's SAD. The Standard American Diet. The acronym is SAD. Wow. The number one piece of advice is to be gentle with yourself, especially because these ultra-processed foods are what we call hyper-palatable. They have been designed to be addictive. They've been designed to drive you to have cravings. This isn't a lack of willpower. These foods were designed to drive you to eat them.
And the food you put in your mouth can actually cause the leaky gut.
Right.
And when you have a leaky gut, you start absorbing toxins into your system, which can actually eventually make you insulin resistant. So our food is everything.
Just try to get off ultra-processed foods and eat whole foods. A great friend of the pod and menopause expert, Mary Claire Haver, shared advice she would give her younger self.
So we start a discussion around lifestyle, nutrition. I have a background in nutrition. I'm able to do nutritional counseling. I have a body scanner in my office. I measure muscle mass and visceral fat. I do very directed counseling around that. So nutrition and movement. I was a cardio queen in the 80s and 90s. I worked out to be thin. Full disclosure, I worked out to look a certain way and I assumed that was healthy. This is as a physician, okay? If I could go back and talk to my 35-year-old self, I would tell her to pick up some weights and eat some protein because I was just trying to be skinny and I was successful at it. Therefore, I was healthy. And I probably chipped away at my bone and muscle strength ridiculously for a cosmetic, way to look. When genetically, I probably never have a chance of being obese, and I was just wanting to be ultra thin. And so I think a lot of us kind of grew up with that mentality. And so I'm having to do a lot of counseling around resistance training, keeping our muscles strong. That will keep our bones strong.
Kara Natterson gave us such good parenting advice on our SheMD episode. There are so many challenges when it comes to getting our kids to eat nutritious food. It's doubly worse when they don't have access to it.
The other thing is, what we're feeding our children, and there is no blame being placed on parents here. This is blame being placed on the food, for me, in the food industry. What we are feeding our children is driving the epidemic of obesity and insulin resistance, right? It is calorie dense, nutrition poor, cheap grab and go foods that do not grow a healthy body. So when people say like counting calories or this, that, and the other, it's about quality of what you're putting into the body, and it's extraordinarily expensive to buy quality food.
We talk about this all the time.
It is just not a fair fight. It is not a fair fight. And you look at what, there's a massive number of kids who get 2 meals a day at school because they have so little in the way of resources at home. They're eating breakfast and lunch at school. Now you look at what school is serving them.
It's incredibly disgusting.
Yeah,
it
it's
just makes
not
you
right.
want to,
When ketchup is a vegetable, it's not right. So to me, we have a lot of soul searching to do as a society, and we owe it to the kids around us to give them higher quality nutrition. I don't know who's going to start this. I think Michelle Obama really tried, but it didn't pick up the way it should have.
Sometimes we just need some actionable tips. Here's functional nutritionist Micaela Riley with a few great ones in her upcoming episode.
90% of women that are coming to work with me, they're not eating enough, period. And it's causing them to have a lot of metabolic issues, blood sugar dysregulation, which will lead into every single symptom that they're experiencing. So making sure you eat enough, prioritize protein, fiber, and then whole nutrient-dense foods, reducing processed foods in the diet. That's number one. Number two is workouts, making sure that you're moving your body in a smart way. Work smarter, not harder, opting for more low-impact strength training. Pilates is great. Walking daily, all of those things are going to be super helpful. And then supplementation, I always say start with the foundations when it comes to supplements. Just your basics, electrolytes, magnesium, fish oil, vitamin D. You don't need to take a bunch of, or every single random supplement that you see on the internet.
Here's Dr. Sarah Berry.
And I think as well, something really important for people to remember is food is there to be enjoyed. It's there to bring us pleasure. It's part of our culture. It's linked with our emotions. It's part of how we socialize. And I do worry in this quest that we've forgotten the beauty and the joy that food is.
I agree with Dr. Berry and so many of our other guests who share their insights on nutrition. We want to be thoughtful with our eating habits, but not overthink it. And let's not forget that food can be enjoyable as well as beneficial. Thanks so much for joining us today on SheMD.
If you want to own your own health, a good place to start is by following us on social media at SheMD Podcast and by subscribing to our show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
For takeaways from today's episode, visit our website, shemdpodcast.com. We'll see you next time on SheMD. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician's medical advice. You should regularly consult your medical provider in matters relating to your own health. Even though we share our honest beliefs on SheMD, some of the products and services we discuss may involve sponsorships or paid advertising.